Hey, Chris Grove here with another film review for you. Today we are doing My Bodyguard from 1980. This stars Chris Makepeace as Clifford Peach. Yes, that's quite a name. Anyway, he's basically a pretty well-to-do kid. His dad, played by Martin Mull, Mr. Peach, is a manager for the Ambassador East Hotel in Chicago. Pretty, fancy schmancy, highfalutin place. His grandmother is played by Ruth Gordon, who's always fabulous. And she's feisty, and she basically is like always picking up on guys like John Houseman and even married men in the hotel bar. Because, that's how she rolls. And he's set to go to public school as opposed to private school that he's been attending, the Southside Academy. He is now going to Lakeview High School, which is named differently, but it's actually Lakeview High School in Chicago, where it was actually filmed. And he runs afoul, his first day there, first class, runs afoul the school bully, played by Matt Dillon, who plays Melvin Moody. And he is basically your typical, he kind of is more creepy than Johnny Lawrence, actually, in a lot of ways. This guy is your classic extortionist, basically picking on the weaker kids to protect them. Force protection, of course, via lunch money, from a guy named Ricky Linderman, played by Adam Baldwin. No relation to Alec Baldwin or any of the other Baldwin brothers. He gets it all the time. And it's basically about his journey and what goes on and transpires, and a beautiful friendship blossoms between Chris Makepeace's character, Clifford Peach, and Adam Baldwin's character, Ricky Linderman. Ricky Linderman is this sort of brooding, huge, misunderstood kid who apparently has a violent past, and according to rumors, of course. And so to get out of this situation, because he's always being hassled by the extortionist, Melvin Moody, in high school, he's always, trying to avoid this guy, and he's just like, okay, well, how do I get out of this situation? I know, I'll hire Ricky Linderman to be my bodyguard. So he approaches him on it, and he's like, really not interested. The kid doesn't want it. He barely goes to class. He doesn't want to, deal with anyone. He's dealing with his own emotional issues, which you'll find out. And it's just he's just going through a lot of pain, really, and a lot of stuff happening. Also in the cast is John Cusack's sister. And who makes a brief appearance is her dad and John's dad, Richard Cusack. He plays the principal of the school, who basically, after his father somehow gets notified by the chauffeur that takes him from the hotel to school that he's having some trouble with some kids, he the dad calls the principal, because that's always a great idea. And of course, Melvin gets a week of detention, and then he's basically, making life hell for Clifford the rest of the year, basically, and probably his whole high school career. So that's when Clifford decides to hire good old Linderman as his bodyguard. And there's a nice reveal scene where he's introduced as, this is my bodyguard, and you back off, and no more extortion money from us, for me and the other kids, and so we're not going to take it anymore. And it's a great plan. It's a really great plan, until Melvin gets his bodyguard, Mike, played by Hank Salas, who's this shaved head dude who which is in 1980, like the shaved head look, yeah, especially, you know, for a Caucasian male, didn't really happen all the time. So, you know, I mean, good for him for doing that. Yeah, I don't know, Mike seems he seems kind of like Chicago Italian, if I had to guess. I don't know, but he's just a tough guy, you know, just like, you know, hey, I'm Matt Dillon's bodyguard, you know, take that. And there's a scene where he really goes after Linderman and really humiliates him in a pretty vicious way. And that's right going into the third act. Between all this stuff is a great friendship brewing. And just a wonderful friendship between Clifford and Ricky, and they kind of get to know each other, and he understands Ricky's past and the tragedy that has befallen him as his little brother was killed in a shooting accident. And they were playing with a gun, which you shouldn't do. So, and he feels terrible guilt. I mean, he feels terrible guilt for his involvement in that, and he's really reeling through that whole thing. So, between you know, that whole situation, they're dealing with that and this wonderful friendship, and Ricky is restoring a motorcycle, and they go through all the pick and pull places, you know, used car part, you know, junkyards to find a missing cylinder for his bike, his motorcycle. They finally found it and fixed it up, and off they go, riding through the streets of Chicago. And this film really makes great use of Chicago locations. The locations are pretty impressive, and it shows the really highfalutin areas and the not so highfalutin areas. So it's really showing everything that Chicago has to offer. Also, being a film in 1980, the 80s weren't quite the 80s. And I love it when people say, hey, this film came out in 1980, so obviously it's an 80s movie. When the fashions, the styles, and everything about it is still late 70s. And this film is no exception. It's still late 70s. That being said, is it dated? Yeah. Is it goofy? Yeah. Joan Cusack has noticeably frizzy hair. You know, later it's like in School of Rock, it's straight, and you know, it's more modern. And I mean, you know, she looks more modern in that film. She even looks more modern to say anything with her brother John in that movie. But there's something, I don't know, there's something charming about her very 1979 going into 1980 frizzy hair look. You know, it's very like Gilda Radner-esque, if you will. And it's okay, you know, it's all right. So that's her whole vibe in the movie, and she's got this huge crush on Matt Dillon's character, but he just treats her like dirt all the time. You know, he's like, her name is Shelley, her character's name is Shelley, and you know, Matt Dillon's like, oh, hey, you want to go to the movies? Have fun while you're there, you know. And yes, that was my Matt Dillon impression, by the way. So, you know, she's kind of having a hard time with this guy, probably going, well, you know, by the end of the movie, she's like, why do we even like this guy, you know? And I think she kind of comes around to that revelation. So anyway, there's another kid named Paul Quant. Paul Quant plays Carson. And Paul Quant is just, got some great lines. He's always seeing doom and gloom behind every corner, especially when it comes to the bullies out to get him or Clifford or any of the other kids, you know, shake him down for lunch money or extortion or whatever they're doing. He's always just really maximizing that teen angst that all the kids who are not as big as the other kids probably feel. So it's an interesting dynamic, and he brings a lot to that table. This is one of his, I think, like his only film He may have done a few other things. Is his acting great? No, but it's real. In fact, not, like, I would say Clifford, Chris Makepeace is great. Adam Baldwin is great. Matt Dillon is great. This was Matt Dillon's second film after Over the Edge, and he is amazing. The film culminates into a showdown in the park after school between Clifford and Moody and Linderman and Mike, the bodyguard. And so you have like the four of them kind of going at it. And it's filmed at Lincoln Park in Chicago, and it just has this authenticity about it. It feels like it's not choreographed at all. You know, it just feels like a natural fight with kids who don't really know how to fight, trying to duke it out. And you know, they're grappling and trying to, you know, throw punches, and it's just like kids fighting in the park after school. You know, it just looks like that in reality. You know, miraculously there's no cops or adults around to break it up, and they're just out there just kind of going at it. So anyway, it's an interesting film. Ruth Gordon has some great scenes, especially there's a scene where Ricky goes with Clifford to the hotel just to hang out, and they bond, and on one of the high roof decks, they have a telescope, and is this for stargazing? And sure, and looking at other heavenly bodies as they spy on the women across the way. Again, this is 1980, you can't really get away with that today, but back then that was just good old fun hijinks. And then Ruth Gordon does this scene where she's reading his palm and telling him he has a long lifeline, and he's afraid to show his hand to her, like he's a little hesitant. And Ruth Gordon grabs Ricky's hand and says, "It's okay, Ricky, you're amongst friends." And the line is delivered so earnestly and so beautifully by Ruth Gordon. It's just an amazing line, and she delivers it wonderfully. So, yeah, that, it has some powerful scenes, some kind of tug at the heart scenes when Ricky's talking about the guilt he feels over his little brother's death, and some great use of Chicago locations. And it just really feels like a fun, well-rounded film. It came out 4 years before The Karate Kid. And so if I were, last time I compared Thunder Alley to Star Wars, this time I'm comparing My Bodyguard to The Karate Kid. They're both vastly different films, of course. I would say Karate Kid is a much more of a Southern California film, Los Angeles film, specifically the San Fernando Valley, Reseda, Encino, all that, where this film really highlights Chicago. You got the L trains, you got the good neighborhoods, you got the bad neighborhoods, you got everything in between. Lakeview High School, where it was filmed, is kind of I looked it up. It's like a high school that's just about 4 blocks, it looks like, from Lake Michigan. And so it's not in like a horrible area. It's not like the South Side or anything. It's just kind of, it looked like a middle class school. And if you Google it, it just looks like an old school building, like an old brick school building that's multi-stories and just seemed like your typical blue collar, middle, like just semi inner city school, but not ghetto inner city school. It just seemed like your average blue collar kids from blue collar families went there. And so it gives it kind of a grounded feeling. And the score is all kind of this sort of classical music, which is an interesting choice. It reminded me of the music in Over the Edge, the first film I reviewed that I probably need to redo since I didn't add any stills or anything. It was just me rambling on about it because that was my first video. And again, my tech skills are still out. The verdict is still out on those, but learning things slowly but surely. So I would say check out this film. It is definitely a time capsule of a certain place in time, being Chicago, 1980, which is definitely on the cuff of the late 70s, but it just has a really nice vibe to it, and a real vibe, a very genuine vibe that you don't see in a lot of films, and with actual child actors that were from Chicago, including Jennifer Beals, who is casted as one of Clifford's friends. Jennifer Beals starred in Flashdance. So, yeah. Oh, what a feeling. Anyway, so that was her. And she got her start in this movie, and 3 years later, she stars in Flashdance. So, and obviously Adam Baldwin did really well in his career. He did like DC Cab after this, but then he started doing other roles and becoming a pretty major player. I can think of Next to Kin he did with Patrick Swayze, and he's been in he's still working today. So he's a great actor and successful in Hollywood. And Matt Dillon, of course, is quite successful. I think Matt Dillon and Chris Makepeace were the only two non-Chicago kids cast in this thing. I think, for the main characters, I think everyone else was from Chicago and responded to a casting call. Tony Bill actually is from Southern California and knows a good family friend of mine from San Diego. He's the director, and he does a really good job of for a Southern California guy filming in Chicago. It looks like he really researched Chicago well to do this film, because it seems like he's almost like Andrew Davis, who's the director of The Fugitive and films like that. He did the first Chuck Norris movie, Code of Silence, and Under Siege, of course, but he does a lot of films based in Chicago. And for Tony Bill being from Southern California, it almost seemed like he was from Chicago. Like he seemed to know Chicago and get the vibe down pretty well. And I think it really helped that he cast kids of appropriate age playing teenagers, playing kids, playing high school kids, and that they were all from Chicago. So it just added to that extra authentic flavor. So if you're into time capsules and movies with hearts and a message, I guess, it's got kind of a message. And it's more so, obviously there has to be a final confrontation, even though Clifford tries like hell to find a peaceful solution to this whole dilemma. But when your back's against the wall, sometimes you gotta fight out in Lincoln Park. So for Chris Grove, for my reviews and for films of this nature, I'm basically just trying to allow people to find films that or get exposed to films that are films that you might not know about. This was a big hit when it came out, but it was definitely it's kind of gotten lost into obscurity. So this is Chris Grove saying, check out My Bodyguard from 1980. Tell me what you think in the comments section. And have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. Wear your green. And wherever you are, wherever you go, there you are. Enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye.